Welcome back to Fresh Outlook, everybody. It is time to look at this week's intriguing stories in lightning fast fashion. I am joined by Bill Rosenberg, Jackie Guzda, and Steve Sirot. Steve, let me ask you, get your opinion on Nancy Reagan died. Your reaction more than your opinion, actually.
I mean, I was a big Ronald Reagan fan. I was very young when he was president, but he really was my entry into even becoming interested in politics. So I had the benefit of going with my son. He's a debater, and he did a tournament in the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library about a month before the first Republican debate. And it was fascinating to see how important Nancy was in who Ronald Reagan was and how he governed. And so she was just a remarkable person. Just with that being said, though, when I watched the 16 students debate, they were so much more impressive than the actual Republican contenders that debated there a month later. I think we should have just swapped them in. It would have been great.
Nancy literally was the voice in Ronnie's head and ear.
Right. Yeah, so I think one of the things that, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican and you look at Nancy Reagan, she had an outsized influence in terms of politics. And the influence she had was particularly in protecting Ronald Reagan's vision about what Ronald Reagan would want to do, not necessarily what America wanted. And I think she had a role that was probably much more visible than many other former first ladies, at least over the last 50 years that I'm aware of, in terms of publicly protecting his positions and trying to strengthen him. Vice presidents, but first ladies, they've certainly been supportive of their man, but not in so much of an overt political way. When you saw Nancy Reagan, she was often acting as a conduit by other people that wanted to get to the president, and she was able to, in effect, manipulate that process in a way that supported Ronald Reagan, not necessarily everyone else.
Jackie, your thoughts on Nancy with the laughing face, as Frank Sinatra once sang to her on her birthday?
Yes, I think he was talking about his daughter, though.
Right, but he actually did a special performance just for Nancy Reagan where he sang the song to her.
Good for him. Good for him. You know what? I'm not in the Republican court. We know that.
Right.
However, I want to thank Nancy Reagan for supporting the Brady bill, because after her husband and Brady were shot, she saw what guns could do. And the wife of the Republican icon of all time supported gun control.
Yeah,
I think she also gets credit for the work that she did with stem cells. That was a pretty big departure for someone of that stature within the Republican Party. Other people may have faults with her on other political issues, but those two issues, I don't think there's much of a disagreement about her sort of leadership role.
Let's talk about a natural disaster. Yeah, she did consult with her astrologist, Jean Dixon, I believe, of National Enquirer fame. But let's talk about the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant disaster. 5 years later, after 20,000 people died, this is still going to be contaminated for generations to come. Steve, what are your thoughts?
It makes me wonder what on earth they were thinking, putting nuclear power plants in where they were located, near such a population center, near the water like that. What bad planning it was. And so, hopefully the world will learn from that. I do believe in and support nuclear power, but you have to be responsible in how you go ahead and plan these things out.
It's interesting you say, how could you build a nuclear power plant like that near such a densely populated area on the water? It makes me think of Indian Point in Buchanan, New York, just a stone's throw from New York City that occasionally leaks into our beautiful Hudson River.
Well, you also have that in 3 Mile Island, right, which was right next to Harrisburg and just down the road from Philadelphia. And then you, of course, have Chernobyl, which was a pretty big city in the Soviet Union. The anti-nukes people, this is their whole point. Nuclear power is dangerous. It's clean in the sense as long as there's no problems. But when there are problems, the problems are serious and they last for really centuries.
If a mistake happens. But the statistics show that nuclear power is very, very safe.
Except if you have an explosion in a propane gas tank, maybe a family is killed. If you have a nuclear core meltdown, you might have a generation of people suffering from its after effects.
That's right. That's what I said.
I also find it strange that the progressives of the past were anti-nukes and the progressives of today's age are pro-nukes, but that's for another debate at another time. A dad miraculously sticks up his hand like a dad should do and saves his son from being cracked in the face by a baseball bat, as you see in the monitor over there. Steve, tell me about these parental instincts that you see on display there.
I think that maybe, the New York Yankees should take a look at him. He's got the kind of reflexes we may need behind the plate. All I can tell you is when I had my son 19 years ago, and he was born premature, he was only 3.5 pounds, but it was amazing how much love I felt for this new person. It was instant, and I think only parents could really understand what that's like. They really do. Their life becomes more important than your own.
He would have blocked that bat with his face if he had to.
That's it.
Bill.
Real quick story. Years ago, I went to Canada with my son. I was taking pictures. I have thousands of pictures of my family, and I asked him to pose in front of an elk, and I still hear the story about how that elk could have charged him. Okay, I'm thankful that it never did. But the bottom line is that baseball arenas, hockey stadiums, and so forth, they are very serious hazards. Okay, that's why they're talking about moving the nets. You'd wonder why they didn't move the nets before that, to block foul balls, not just baseball bats.
Unbelievable. Jackie, Maria Sharapova fails a drug test. Very disappointing.
Not really. She said she was using that drug for 10 years.
Sure. To get strong and to get big and to be competitive and to be powerful. It's a drug that you normally take for a few weeks if you have a heart condition.
Well, we could assume that, or Maria can show her records and the stats and her family history, which is why she was taking that drug, to the public, and then we'll decide.
Okay, I'm more cynical than you, but you might be right. Certainly a fan of hers. I'm going to get one last one in. 4-year-old shoots his mom in the back. This woman apparently was what you might call a gun nut. What are your thoughts?
Well, as somebody who does support the Second Amendment, we have to be reasonable about this. These are, they could kill you.
Kids and guns do not mix. Steve, Bill, Jackie, I'm Logan Crawford. Thanks for joining us here on Fresh Outlook, where we keep your outlook fresh and informed. See you next time. I salute.